new faces. Oh,
there we go. Are we live?
Now we're live.
Hi, everyone.
Right. Hey, I'm here with some new faces, so should you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Neal.
I'm Harrison.
They're both software engineers. I can do that part. And they also help a lot with game design. They're great. Been hearing a lot of people talking about economy and production and these sorts of things in the chat. I haven't actually been able to read the chat myself, so I'm just hearing these things secondhand. Definitely ask questions that you want to have answered now. And I'll just kind of talk at a high level about production and economy in our game. Why it is the way it is, and what we like about it, and what we don't like. So we have a very streamlined, simple production and economic model right now. It's basically the simplest thing that we were comfortable shipping with. We've had more complex production and economic models in our experiments in the past. And they created a lot of interesting things, but along the lines of trying to make skirmish mode as much about the armies as possible, we wanted to simplify all of that, because with all of the abilities that are flying around left and right and how complex the armies are to control, it can be tough even just to switch selection and then press a couple keys to like queue up your next units and then get back to the fight. So this is really simple system. It's designed to give the minimal set of knobs and decisions that you need to get the army that you want and the upgrades you want, and then focus on the fights. Are there any questions from the chat, from the crowd?
This is your chance to ask about.
This is your chance
from
the man himself.
Yeah,
horse's
from
mouth.
the man.
From one man.
If you ask during the game,
One
I'll just
man.
make stuff up.
Actually, this is the last chance to ask about it ever. Right now. This is it. Beyond timing.
Is all resource collecting individual, or does the team share any resources by same?
That is actually a very compelling question. So we used to have it that when you killed structures, it was totally team shared, and we found a weird thing where you had to make that number so high for it to feel worth it as an individual player that it felt a little washed out. We've since moved to a model where all the resourcing on the map happens through collection, which has made it a lot more clear to players what's happening. The one potentially unclear part about it is how things get shared, as you pointed out. It's really simple. If any of your units are nearby when a shard or a piece of energy is collected, then you get part of it. So it splits it across all the allies that are in the radius. Pretty wide radius.
B. Malal asks, is the economy going to be different between...
That is a difficult question to answer for a number of reasons. I don't like to commit to concrete decisions, but we're going to be experimenting with tweaking the economic and production systems in the different game types. There's a lot to be said for keeping it consistent between the game types. It's possible that we can't get the things that we're looking for with the current systems we have. Ideally, if we do need to make changes, they would be additive, or we could do something to still keep it in line with what we have in skirmish mode, but it's too early to say anything publicly for sure yet.
I think a good point about like the different game modes and resource collection is that for the current game mode, we arrived where we did through a lot of iteration, as Bobby just talked about, versus carrying in the pickup mechanics. We had to do a lot of things to figure out what felt good in that mode as you on the map and collected resources. We'll probably have to do some similar explorations for different.
Yeah. We've had modes in the past with, I mean, this is all stuff you can probably find on our forums at this point, all the old playtest notes. We've had modes with full-on workers and expansions and production facilities that you build. And those modes were fun, but they weren't focused on the army as much, and that's what we wanted to focus on. Really want to make sure we get a good core here, that the armies and the units themselves feel good and fun to control, because all the other stuff on top of that needs to have that core in place, we feel, in order for the game to actually end up being fun and compelling.
So Spidey CU has a critical question. Where do I get that shirt? I assume that you're talking about
This
Bobby's
one?
shirt, because Bobby's
shirt is wonderful.
really nice.
You're a very handsome man.
So
Bobby.
where can Spidey CU get that shirt?
You can
I'm
just
assuming-
pay me directly, I think. I don't want to advertise for one clothing brand or another. You can get this shirt, which I think is much nicer, actually.
Does Spidey want that shirt? Like
Which
that
shirt?
one? Or a duplicate of this one? He
Oh,
may just want your shirt, Bobby.
Spidey's, your comment is not clear enough. Sorry.
Yeah, you can try again in a year.
All right, I think that covers all the production questions.
Cool. All right, well, I'm going to get out of the way because 3 people in here is a bit crowded, and Harrison's going to play a game, and Neal's gonna co-pilot.
Yep, we've got another 15 seconds on the queue, so hopefully we'll get a game right about now. Perfect timing.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
Great. Thanks, Bobby. So we've got to re-square ourselves up a little bit here. And the matchmaker has said we are ready to go.
All right, so we waited for 10 seconds, which means we get to wait another 30 seconds, because that's how Atlas.
Yeah. Basically, we want to confirm that everyone is like actually ready to play when you hit the ready button, and then we actually try to slot you into matches. And that's when the matchmaking actually happens. But that leads to less people sort of spoiling and blowing up the queue by not actually being ready.
Green Locust asks, Guardians of Atlas, what are your inspirations for making this game? What are some of your favorite games growing up? So I can tell you...
Lay it on me, Neal.
There are a lot of people on the team who have lots of different games that they love. So I'm only going to talk about myself, and I'll let Harrison discuss his choices. Let me start by saying there are a ton of influences on the game. The most direct ones, obviously, the RTS genre. There's a lot of influences from different MOBAs. There are a ton of influences actually from Magic the Gathering. If you have played Magic the Gathering, it's not a direct thing because obviously ours is a real-time strategy game and Magic the Gathering is turn-based. But that does come into play. For me personally, I am super fond of a lot of games which, like The Legend of Zelda, which allow you to sort of explore a really big space and explore a world. And obviously our art style has captured a lot of that, sort of that a little bit whimsical, a little bit fantastical, a little bit magical sort of setting. That's something that really appeals to me.
Now, Neal, which Legend of Zelda? Which one?
If I had to pick personally, I would go with Wind Waker. I am a huge fan of Wind Waker.
Link to the Past, man.
Link to the Past is
amazing.
amazing.
You did it wrong.
You're correct. Link to the Past is probably the best one, but the art style of Wind Waker just touches my heart. That's why I only play with Ice Frogs.
That's fair. That's fair. Right. From my end, I play a lot of different stuff. More recently, I've just been playing Atlas. But before that, I also played a fair amount of WoW. I was a raid leader for a little while. Had a great time with that. Before that, I played Dark Age of Camelot for a long time on Hibernia. I also play a fair amount of like roguelikes and roguelike games. I played Tome a lot when I was in school. I still play Dwarf Fortress occasionally and have a lot of fun having, quote, fun in that game, aka losing. But I like that more punishing mentality, and it's pretty fun to engage with. But it looks like our game is just about ready, and we're hopping in now. On my team, switch over to our actual game view. You should be cutting in shortly. Yeah, there we go. So on my team, I've got Celesta and Eris, and I picked Ryme, which is a very slowing, cold-based hero on blue. I've also picked up the Ice Frogs, which can do a powerful, like, freezing breath attack, which is super awesome. I'm going to try to layer on top of that some of the Frost Collars, and I've got the Quadrupede to protect some of my units. Really big, deep upgrade that helps me in fights. That's a lot of scrap to get. A lot of those units are pretty high tier and cost a lot of, bioshards. So I will be sticking with a tier 1 composition for the first part of the game and trying to do a lot of efficient things with that. So I've also picked up some patch bots to try to keep my units alive during like the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game. Plus my tier 1 units have a great baseline slow, which I'll try to use to, like, if anyone overextends by just a little bit, I'll try to use that to pick people off and make sure they can't escape, and just like burst them down before they can get away or get help. So hopefully that plan will work. It's worked in the past, but this other team looks pretty strong too. We've got Vex on the other side, who does a lot of fire damage. We've got another Celesta, so I'm gonna have to watch out for her wisps, which can do a lot of damage.
And just to emphasize, for for this particular composition that Harrison's team has, he is going to be responsible for keeping his allies sort of alive and able to deal damage. They've got the potential to really take on a lot of units, but if they get engaged on, it will be very hard for them to.
It could hurt a lot.
It's very hard for them to keep their units alive. That's one of the reasons that no, what is it called now? Your T1 unit. I've already forgotten.
My Arctic Newts, man.
Arctic Newts. The reason that Arctic Newts are an excellent T1 unit is that it has that Q ability. You quickly select one of them, tap Q, and when it auto attacks next, it'll slow a bunch of units. That is super useful for helping protect your allies. It gives them a chance to run away, and it gives you a chance to sort of position your units in front. So you slow some units, you dart in between, and let Vela get some space so her raptors don't get taken out too quickly.
So another thing that it does is gives me an attack reset.
Looks like we have the camera on the minimap is covering. We're going to fix that in just a second here.
Camera's on the minimap. Okay, let me swap those around as soon as I get a sec. Remember which...
Yeah.
Sorry, there are problems with using the same machine between a bunch of people.
Alright, so we've got the minimap visible again, so now you can actually see where our allies are going. As you can see here, Harrison is helping Velo. It's awesome at this stage in the game. If you have an ally who is playing Velo, it's awesome to have
a little bit of help down there.
A little help. Velo's really good with an ally. She's got a long distance auto attack. Velo and her raptors have long distance, long range auto attacks. But because they're a little bit slower and they're a little bit brittle, if they get taken out early, that can make it hard in the mid game to keep up with the economy of your opponents. Oh, and an early hero kill. Excellent.
Yeah, so my opponent extended a little bit there. They thought they were going to be able to get away, but I hit them with a slow right as they were trying to start to run. And so they couldn't get away as quick as they expected. That let us get the early kill. It's going to be a little hard to collect that scrap. I don't feel, or that the chunk of bioshards up there that the hero kill dropped. But we can go over there and get those a little later. They don't despawn or anything. We just need to make sure that we're safe when we do so. They just started coming back, and so if we were up there right now trying to collect them, we probably would have lost like all of our stuff.
And as you can see there, Harrison's ally, Vela's shot, picked off that trigger right before the enemies could get it, so they actually stole, Harrison's team stole that shard. They haven't had a chance to collect it. They won't get their resources until they walk over there, which can be risky because the enemy is still there, so they'll have to find an opportunity to grab that when it's safe.
So what I was doing right here is I was planting a ward in this brush region right here that we can't see through. And it was fortunate that I did so because some of Celesta's units were right about to come through and make an attack. So since we can put some wards in there, we can get vision on the other side. That helps keep us a little safe when we're in that region so that we don't get flanked on and all our stuff killed, which feels really bad.
And as you can see here, Harrison pulled back at that point. He had taken a bunch of damage. Losing units can, especially early, can be really rough. It forces you to spend energy to build more T1 units, which means later on, again, when you get towards the mid-game, you're going to have a smaller army than your opponent. By carefully positioning and making sure that you spread the damage across many different units, and then going back to heal, you're effectively earning resources. You're effectively collecting energy that you would normally have to get by clearing camps or producing it at your command core.
So, like Neal was saying, I've got a couple units who are almost dead. Oh, he picked off one of them. But I want to get back and heal up. As one of my allies pointed out in chat, the Titans are about to spawn. I want to be nice and strong right as that happens. And they're going to spawn right now. Now since I healed my units up a little bit, I'm in good shape to step out into the center without too much fear about getting all my stuff killed easily. So I'm going to try to get in front of my my ally here and try to protect him or her a little bit so that I can help sort of zone out these people, form a nice buffer between them and all of Vela's really fragile units, and that'll help let them get a lot of damage done without taking a lot of losses.
And I gotta say here that the Vex on the opposing team has that basic ability, Scorch, which can cause quite a bit of damage, and the enemy Vex is actually using that Scorch very effectively, both to zone out Harrison and Vela, and also just to get good chip damage. It's really forcing Harrison to react to the placement of that ability, and if Harrison stops paying attention even for a second, you can lose a couple T1s or
like this. He's almost got most of these units down. I'm going to try to kill him as he's overextended a little bit, just in the range of my stun ability, my Frostbolt. That lets us collapse on him and kill him pretty fast.
You can see that Ryme's basic ability, Frostbolt, hits just one unit, at least until it gets upgraded. But that unit is frozen. It cannot move, it cannot attack. So it's a really good way to pick off a critical unit, especially, again, early in the game when the counter's so good.
One thing that's pretty important here, our Titan is almost dead. They almost managed to finish it off. But as they were trying to do so, we pushed them all the way off, and them trying to kill it opened them up to us just killing their entire army. So they didn't quite kill it, which means we've got a significant advantage now. Our Titan heals up for about 30% of its health when we capture it, and that puts it into range to at least get some damage done on these towers. Now it looks like one of our enemies is going to try to head down here and get some harass done while he thinks we're not paying attention. I'm going to head back down there and try to steal the resources that he's trying to collect and kill his army. Sometimes it's more effective to push with the Titan up here. It gives a pretty substantial defensive bonus for standing near it, which is pretty helpful. It also does a significant amount of damage to buildings, which if I manage to destroy this tower here, we can use that to press our advantage later. But when you have a little less units, when you've been trading pretty heavily in the mid-region, it's sort of a question you have to ask yourself about, like, okay, can we be aggressive now? How aggressive can we be? Are we going to be safe in our aggression? And when do we have to pull back? And so I decided, well, we can push a little bit, or I can come down here and try to deny him the units that he's trying to farm with down here. And I managed to pick off a significant number of them and open myself up to pick up the cards that I left behind down here later, or excuse me, earlier in the game, which gets us a little more ahead. So right now, these medium camps have spawned across the map. That occurs at 7 minutes. I'm in a good position now to try to steal theirs. They don't quite have an owner to them, but we usually consider this sort of safer for this team to take since it can reinforce from a couple of these angles. And similarly, this one over here is a little easier for my team to reinforce and a little safer for us to get vision on. But since we were here like just at the right time with my ally and me, and we just killed a significant portion of the enemy units, we're in a great place to go ahead and take this from our opponent so they can't get it later. So I'm going to do a little bit of an unsafe thing. I'm going to poke towards the middle without vision and get it sort of before I walk through this brush. And I'm also going to try to steal another one of their camps away. The reason I want to do this is that A, it gives me a substantial amount of shards. This is why it's a little dangerous. I got an opponent coming in here to try to kill all my stuff. The reason it's good is that if we can take this, it denies our opponents some of the income that they would have a little more easily, but provides them a pretty good chance to collapse on us and kill a lot of our stuff. So that was pretty dangerous. They denied us pretty well there. They punished our sort of hopes of stealing some of their resources. What I'm doing now is because I'm a little nervous on stream, I've dropped some of my macro. So I'm getting a chunk of upgrades now. I haven't lost a huge amount of units, so I have enough ability to resupply. I don't need that many, so I can use some of these production slots to pick up my range upgrade for my tier 1s. Like I said, I'm probably going to be on these units for a little while, so I want to make them pretty good. And I'm also picking up defensive and attack upgrades for them, so they'll be a little stronger. In general, I tend to be very comfortable with a style that really uses a lot of tier 1s and doesn't get higher tech units till pretty late. Oh, this is risky. They're going to try to come in here and take the camp that we're trying to work on. I'll use the attack reset on the Arctic Newt Slow to burst down that camp so that they can't steal it. And then I'll try to pick off these sabers that are trying to poke in. Yeah, I got that one just before he could retreat. And then if we back up under our tower, it has a little bit of an AoE damage effect to prevent some diving from occurring. You can still dive under it pretty well if you have something tanky, Typically Grath is pretty good at that. The composition that they had is not very good at that, and so they backed off rather than taking a bunch of damage trying to kill us. And that lets us take this this other medium camp. There's a couple of these in each base. One's right here, one's right here. These are a little bit of a safer resource for you to collect. And so we're going to do that now, and then try to parlay that into more upgrades and some more higher tech units that I'll try to build in just a sec.
And you can see that the main way that you get an edge over your opponent in resources in this game is by being very efficient when you grab your camps, the camps that are on your side of the map, by denying opponents the opportunity to get the camps that are sort of along that mid-region, and by killing enemy structures and those critters on the midline. You can cross over to the midline a little bit further and get some damage done there. You can get some other resources. This game has been incredibly close. Neither side has really been able to make any progress past the midline, so we've seen a lot more critter combat, a lot more camp combat. As people start to get higher tier units and the damage starts to scale a bit more, I think we're going to see some more. Again, both sides have been very willing to try to deny resources, try to poke into the enemy side. It's just so even that no one's really succeeded. I think once the high tier units come out, we're going to see a lot of bold moves and potentially some real swings in economy.
Oh, so this is interesting. My opponent on Vex has opted to get these Lancers that are sort of pretty powerful units that you have to set up, but once you do, they do a lot of damage in a line. We had enough damage there to unseat them before they could get a lot done. That's pretty important because once you get up a significant number of them, they can get really difficult to move. Oh, we've got a good opportunity here. It looks like our Titan landed a slow on a bunch of their units. I'm going to follow that up with my ultimate ability, which is a big frost ball that hits and stuns a bunch of units in a little circle. I've mispositioned here a little bit. I've got my 2 quadruped that I finally got out. A little exposed as I need to retreat. I'm going to fire off my slow and try to get out of here before I get collapsed upon. And I got out pretty well. I'll trade, or I'll take his saber for free, and then try to re-engage a little more safely.
While Harrison did get out, his allies unfortunately did not. There was a lot of ults being driven back and forth in that fight. It was almost hard to follow. But we saw some Celesta's ultimate ability, which can kill a huge number of units in a large area if they're not able to reposition effectively. The Titan stun can make it very hard for players to reposition, which makes Celesta's ultimate just that much more effective. And because Harrison's allies took a real beating there, even though he did a good job of zoning, it just wasn't enough. The enemy team got that Titan very cleanly with a lot of health, and as the game goes on, those Titans, they get stronger. That additional health for the Titan and the additional damage is pretty much guaranteed to get some good kills in there.
Oh, that was very close. I overextended a little bit to try to pick off these Lancers. Like I said, when they're unrooted, they don't do a lot of damage, but once they get rooted and once they get a significant number next to each other, they become very difficult to deal with. I was trying to play pretty aggressive there to make sure that my opponent couldn't get them into a really good position that would be difficult for us to respond to. As I did that, Vex on my opponent's side laid down a nice ultimate ability, crossing over most of my army. I managed to get out of the way just in time and use the Quadrupus to deploy its damage mitigation shield. I think it's called Intervention. It makes things take about 40% as much damage, so it helped the couple units that did get stuck in it took a lot less damage. I was able to get them out safely. Now we're sort of in an uncomfortable place. We don't exactly know where they are on the map. We found some of them, and I'll try to kill them as they were, I guess, taking one of their easy camps over here. My allies have found another couple down there. I'm going to go join them because the hard camps spawn right here on the map, up here, and in the main base right here. We want to try to take at least one of those that's outside our base so that we can get a significant number of resources very early. So now it's spawned. What we don't want to have happen is to start fighting this and have our opponents come over here and then start killing us while we're engaged with this camp. It does quite a bit of damage and has some abilities that can really hurt. And if you get engaged upon while you're fighting it, it can just destroy your army very quickly. So I'll try to protect my ally with a little bit of the intervention that we talked about earlier. Kill off this camp and collect the bioshards and the energy. Looks like we're going to be pretty unopposed here. That's great. We're going to try to quickly transition up to top and see if we can get there before the enemy gets the other one.
And as you can see, we talked about a little bit how resourcing through these camps really requires sort of situational awareness and efficiency. You have to be able to kill that camp quickly and be aware of where the enemy is. If you try to take a camp at a point which is not safe, you can lose more resources just trying to take the camp and whatever.
It's very easy if you're not planning it carefully to start engaging the camp around here and have your enemy just come down from here or from here and box you in with the next to the camp, have the camp land a good stun, and just have all your stuff destroyed very quickly. So given that ward, I'm going to assume that they took this. Yes, they did. Good on them. That is a pretty even trade between both teams. We can back off a little bit and grab our easy camp here. That'll help get us a little more ahead. We can also grab the hard camp there. I want to wait to do that until all of my team is there so that we can share the shards evenly. I don't want to just hog all of the bio shards and not let my allies get any upgrades. That's not... You can get ahead yourself that way, but it's very hard to win as a team that way. You can still carry a game pretty well in Atlas, but it's much more difficult than it is in some other games, and so you really want to play as a team. And I want to help my allies by making sure that they can deal with the stuff they need and get the upgrades that they need to.
You know, in different compositions, the way you build your army will affect what resources you need. If you are going for an army composition that requires a lot of upgrades, but doesn't necessarily require a lot of tier 2 and tier 3 units, you actually might be able to get away with focusing on energy and letting your allies take a lot of the shards so that they can get tech up quickly. On the other hand, for Harrison here, he really needs the quadrupus to keep himself and his allies healthy because they don't have a dedicated tank. And when he gets to Ice Frog, that's going to be a major advantage. That's going to be the kind of unit that can take a fight which would look pretty even. The Ice Frog's breath can stop or stun a huge number of units if the ally mispositions. And it can take a lot of damage, so it fills sort of two roles that Harrison's team really needs. So it's good for Harrison to make sure he's active in getting those shards every opportunity.
Yeah, so... Oh, this is excellent. We found them out of position. They were trying to take our medium camp. They realized that they can't take this effectively. Now that we've noticed them, they were trying to be pretty greedy here, like we were earlier in the game. But we noticed and collapsed on them. This ability is actually pretty dangerous for us. It's a good use by them. This is like Heat Wave from the Ember Fiend. It does a lot of damage and has a really long range, but it moves pretty slowly. So it can be used pretty effectively for what they were trying to do, which is deny us sort of this position, force us into moving, which kept us off these shards for a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and get tech level 3. I feel like we've done pretty well on this composition so far. I need to make sure that my tier 1s are out in front of my other units so that those don't get killed. I'll try to protect my allies' purifiers here, which do a lot of siege damage. And I'm going to try to make sure that they don't get engaged upon, and if they do, I'm here to protect them. So I'm just kind of zoning, just trying to make sure that nobody can get on top of them, make sure nobody can just destroy that nice little pack of units. Some of the AoE abilities can destroy stuff like that pretty fast if you get on top of it. I'm going to try to kill off this Lancer that was out of position, prevent it from getting sieged, and now we're in great shape with nearly fully health Titan to push in pretty substantially into their base.
This game has really been back and forth, right? If you recall that first Titan engagement, Harrison and his allies just barely, with a sliver of health, managed to pull out that first Titan fight, and the second Titan fight.
Ooh, that didn't look good. Oh, that was a good flank by Vex here. I noticed it at the last second. I don't think I got my abilities off quite in time. He managed to lay down a great ultimate from an unexpected angle. He came from behind us and killed a lot of our stuff. What he doesn't know is he's actually freed up a bunch of my supply to start picking up things like this ice frog here and this frost collar here. And that's going to let us do actually substantially more damage.
Yes, strategy. It's important to remember to lose all of your units frequently.
And lose all of them, but yeah.
The more you lose units, the more things you can build.
I mean, it's difficult.
The more you shop, the more you save things.
It's difficult to decide when you want to start making that kind of transition. It's always a tough call to not voluntarily lose units, but to trade them, and knowing when to trade them and when that's going to be efficient for you. But it is one of the things that you can do at a, sort of the higher level, which is say, okay, I need to transition to these other units. How can I get value out of the ones I have while transitioning to a new set? So that push kind of petered out. We got their warp spire here, so they can't warp into this area anymore. That's going to prevent them from reinforcing this top place. So if we fight in this region, it's going to be a lot easier for us to get reinforcements from over here. Similarly, we took out their healing battery here. That's the analog of this structure over here, which is what you can retreat to heal. That's going to make it harder still for them to sort of enter this region, try to bully me, and then exit it again without losing much. They'll have to travel significantly further to be able to do that. Well, good on my ally who's paying attention and watching my back for me. He sees them coming in here. I want to come down and help him, make sure that he doesn't get collapsed on with more units than he can deal with. I don't have a whole lot myself right now. I had a bunch of these things in production, but they're out now, and I need to buy some more upgrades since I am back at the roughly at the supply cap now. So now this is going to take a little more micro. Hopefully I can pull it off reasonably well while being on stream and a little nervous, but the frost frogs here have a substantial slow, or a substantial freeze cone like this. I've got a couple of these frost collars as well that can lay down a substantial AoE that's sort of in this rough line. If I get a good freeze off, I can then lay down the frost calls on top of it and really do a lot of damage. So it looks like my ally's caught out here. He's going to do a desperation ult to try to save some of his units. I'll try to make it in time to help him. I don't know if I'll make it, but we're going to try. Let me try to get that ice frog to the front before I do, and hope they overextend. Let's see if I can land this.
I have to go back to this. This game has been incredibly close. We saw in the third Titan fight that Harrison and his allies got a very clean kill on that Titan. But then, just as they were going in to get that damage from that push that they earned, the enemies just pulled this really, really good flank. Vex had both his ultimate coming from the south side, we didn't expect it, at the same time as he started the igniter fireballs, that large red burning zone that moves slowly. That pincered the armies between them, and
oh, it was really good.
And that brought him right back. I mean, this game is the kill count doesn't look exactly even. Harrison's team is definitely up a little bit. But in terms of progress on the map, it's really anyone's game. It's going to come down to these high-tech units, or a misplay or a misposition by one team. And so far, we have not seen a lot of that. I mean, we've seen a lot of very clean map awareness on both sides, and both teams sort of leveraging whatever they can.
This has been a great game, and that's what we want to encourage. We want this sort of tight feeling where if you do well in the early game and really hammer your opponent, you can get substantially ahead and really push that to victory quickly. But this game has been really even, and we see that as it's played out into this mid-game that the tension has kind of kept up, that it still looks competitive and it still feels like we could lose if we don't play well. And if we play really well, we can outflank and just deliver a really good blow. So unfortunately, a couple of my frost colors died. That means that my AoE options are a little more limited. I still have my Frost Frog alive since it has so much health. I'm going to dip down here and start trying to put damage onto the Titan. My allies are up here doing a little bit of farming, but they're also keeping the enemy engaged. That means that I'm going to be able to get a little bit of damage on here before they show up. It looks like they're here now. Oh,
in case it's not clear, this is going to be a critical fight. There is a lot of units in a very small space for the enemies.
So this is pretty rough. I got a really good breath off with my Frost Frog as my ally was flanking, but his Ember Fiends here delivered a pretty good set of heat waves that kept me from following up with any significant damage. And that was really tough for me to deal with.
And we just missed it, but the enemy Eris just pulled off an excellent ult, which decimated the flanking allies, Harrison's flanking allies. He's pretty much on his own right now.
That's not good. I think we'll be fine. I want to wait a little bit till my Frost Frog's breath attack comes back up. I also don't want it to die.
Oh no! They killed the frog. That's a huge loss. Using a high-tech tier 3 unit, especially one like the Ice Frog, which has a high cost, can really set you back. In an engagement like this, where the team that gets this Titan is pretty much guaranteed to get a tower, possibly Warp Spire, and maybe even a healing battery, healing generator.
And you know, I have enough scrap to rebuild some of these high-tech units, but it's going to take time, and it means that I can't get some of the upgrades that I was hoping for that would have made my high-tech units a little better. I'm rebuilding a Frost Caller as well, but I can't get things like the third ability power upgrade, which would make its Frost Calls really strong. So that's just going to be something that we're going to try to have to win back over the course of this game. This big creature over here is the Pyrosaur. It's going to try to charge in and has like a flame breath attack that does a lot of damage. I'm going to try to make sure that if it does that, it gets slowed and stunned before it hits my allies' units, and try to sort of protect them in that way. It's pretty slow, so it is easy to take care of if you can get it before it really starts breathing and starts wrecking your stuff.
Oh, there we go. Skill shot there took out the Pyrosaur at the last possible second. If it had escaped, it would still need to kind of find those remaining healing generators. Only 2 left for the enemies, so it would have been on a fight for a little bit, but of course, getting kill means that much less that you need to worry about in the next engagement.
So that ult right there didn't look great. It didn't kill a lot of stuff, but what it did do is it's a really good tool to use on things like that Purifier. When it is rooted in place, it's really hard to move, so you can't avoid big ultimate abilities like that, which pretty much means that you lose that position, and it's going to be hard to pick back up again. My allies aren't quite here yet, so I'm trying to just zone as much as I can, do as much damage as I can while losing hopefully not a lot of stuff. My Quadrupus has decided to try to be a hero and dive into combat. That's not good for Quadrupy. They are soft and fleshy things.
Now Harrison's army here is tiny. He has just a few units left.
This isn't looking good, folks.
And they are bruised. I don't know. He probably should have retreated there earlier. I'm guessing that he both wanted to help his allies, and maybe a little bit of that streamer bravado slipping in there.
The red mist, man. What I'm going to do here, I thought about getting the ability power upgrade. Since I'm back to a more tier 1 based army that's probably going to have to engage quite a bit to deal damage, I'm instead going to grab the physical resist upgrade. Let me see if I can get this set of freezes down. This is good because they were trying to chase in and get set up here to support their Titan. We really would like for our healing battery here not to fall. It looks like it probably will anyway. Now I'm wishing I had those Frost Breaths back, but we'll see what we can do.
So Billingham in chat mentioned that, Silver Direwolf mentioned in chat he thought this game was an RTS, but it looks kind of more like a MOBA. A hybrid? Question mark?
Yeah, you know, that's a fair question. I would say that we try to draw inspirations from a lot of things that are fun, and I think if you look at some of the motion, it might look a little bit more like that. If you look at a lot of the units and how you control them and how you try to position them around the map and how the objectives feel to take on the map, I think you'll feel a little more like an RTS. So I don't want to get too far into labels or anything like that. We just have tried to make a fun game and draw inspiration from wherever was good.
And I would love to point out that if you're watching this game closely, you'll see some of the ways that it pulls from many different genres. We're seeing a lot of positional control come into play here, which is common in both RTS and MOBA games. we're seeing a lot of thought about the specific compositions and the number of units that each player has. That's something that's frequently more on the RTS side of the angle. The resource management is somewhere in between as well. I mean, we're not building workers in this mode. In skirmish mode, the resourcing happens when you're killing these critters, killing these camps, as you see Harrison do right here. Which is, you know, similar to some RTS games in the past, similar to some MOBAs as well. But the real thing, like Harrison said, the real thing about it is we've just focused very heavily on making the experience be as fun and as tight as possible. Really make what we consider to be the core mechanic, these army battles, just be incredibly compelling, be incredibly fun. And we don't always succeed. There's certainly units right now which need more work than others. I would say that, you know, the way we're seeing that sort of the Ice Frog, Frost Collar, Arctic Newt interact here, these tight battles where Harrison's been protecting his allies and occasionally overextending a little bit and losing everything. It's been fun to watch, certainly, and I hope you guys get a chance to play with this composition as well as make your own compositions and let us know. You know, if you find a composition which you feel like is really strong, or perhaps even
this is very
too
interesting.
Strong.
My ally usually, so Vela has her ultimate ability. It's called Diplomatic Immunity. It's usually used to retreat quickly. It makes all of your units invisible. If you're pretty daring, you can use it offensively and use it to try to surprise units. I have to walk between all of these things. Oh, I managed to get. Oh, that's a miscontrol. As I was targeting that ward. Fortunately, I've been reasonably efficient and haven't lost a lot of stuff, so I have plenty of energy in the bank to remax with. A lot of my stuff is pretty damaged, so I'm a little concerned about being out this far on the map. This is probably a little too dangerous to take. I'm going to tell my team tell them I'm backing off, that I need to go get some health, because I don't want to lose everything there and then have us just lose the game after that. What I'm going to try to do is get some more ability power, defensive upgrades, some magic resist. A couple of the abilities that have really kind of swung the fight in the enemy's favor are those Vex Pyroblasts. It's going to be a little while before that ability is up again for my opponent, but when it is, I've managed to keep a lot of stuff alive through them, but they've been really damaged coming out the other side. I want to try to get some upgrades to mitigate that evenly, so I'll be able to stay in the fight after that happens. I also want to try to get some quadrupy up, but unfortunately I am supply capped. The units I've got are the units I've kind of got with this deploy, which means that it's an even better idea to continue to pump more of my resources into these upgrades. I can't get a bigger army, I might as well get an army that fights better. And if I can control it well, I think that will be enough. But the Titans have just spawned. This may be the last set of Titans for this game if we can do it right, but we need to do it right. I'm going to try to get some vision here real quick.
So we got Rylarian asks, do any units have different movement speeds? It looks like they all have identical movement. And what was the reason behind that?
They do not have identical movement. They have very close movement speeds, but they are different. If you look at units like
well, the big example here would be like the Dredge Crawler.
The Dredge Crawler is very slow. I was also thinking of units like the Bramblethorn Goliath, which is a really big unit for green that can do a lot of damage and has an ability to regenerate health, but it's very slow. That means that it is easy to kite against. You can run backwards, but its incredible health pool lets it sort of march into combat and march out of combat, not quite as it pleases, and it really punishes you for not paying attention and not microing against it effectively. Going back to sort of more of the root of the question, movement speed as a stat is incredibly good and can be very difficult to balance around. We used to have more variation in the movement speed, but whenever there's a significant movement speed gap, not only does it change the balance of the units, but it can just, not only does it feel unbalanced, it feels bad to play against, because you just feel like you can't do anything. When you can't get to a unit to attack it, it's not like you're taking an engagement and losing, you just really don't get to feel like you've participated most of the time, and that's a really negative feeling. So we try very hard to, when we do change movement speeds, to make sure it's really justified and make sure those units still feel good to play with and play against. I really need to back off here. I think that magic resist paid off. Most of my army is very low, but survived. I'm going to pick up some medics, some patch box that use me, in addition to try to heal them back up without having to retreat, because I've got to come all the way back here and heal up, which significantly relieves the pressure on my opponents. My allies, are sort of out here alone, and they'll be kind of alone until I can get these healed up and get back on the field. You can see these ice frogs here have significantly slower speed than many other units. They sort of look the same right now because I'm marching behind them, and they don't push each other real well. I'm going to try to set up some good blasts on all of these units here.
So I want to go back real quick to the movement speed thing, and just to emphasize this, in skirmish mode, there's a lot of army fights. There's a lot of armies, using abilities to try to get an advantage in energy or in scrap. There's a lot of active resourcing, taking your units and positioning them near camps to deny, claim those resources, and as a result, there isn't in skirmish mode. There isn't as much of an opportunity for some of the faster-paced RTS-like harassment units, like you'd see in Banshees in StarCraft 2, or sorry, I'm a bit distracted by this game. It's a little hard for me to think right now. But
so am I. Keep talking.
Yes.
Just say whatever. Say things.
I really like pie.
Okay, so I was a little aggro here. I'm cut off from my allies. Vex has cut me off, but left me an avenue to escape since we killed this tower earlier. We didn't have to, but since we did, it makes escaping from this direction very easy, and that's part of why I wanted my teammates to do it. And it's great that they did, because it really saved my bacon there. My frogs are a little low, but we really want to push with this Titan up to this tower and up to the shield battery here, or the healing tower.
So Silver Dire will pass. So are there items? Do units essentially act as items you get in a traditional MOBA?
Oh, this is a great Pyrosaur flank here. No, there aren't items. We've explored things in the past that feel sort of like them, but there aren't items right now. I guess you could sort of think of that if that is your touchstone for thing that I buy over the course of the game that changes how I play or makes me more powerful. I think one difference that's kind of interesting relative to how we think of items in like more of an RTS or a MOBA like League or Dota is that typically they don't change how you play. They change how powerful you are, how much damage you do. They usually don't change a lot about how you play, with of course some exceptions. This is unfortunate. Our Titan is kind of stuck here. I think it is manually controlled for the last person who got it. It has sort of a automatic walk pattern that it will follow, but it looks like one of my allies has control of it and doesn't realize it. That's fine. We will try to do the best we can with that.
Be nice TV asks.
That's good. We should be nice on TV.
That's true. We should be very nice on TV. Have you experimented with game speed at all? Yes, the answer to your question, Be Nice TV, is we've experimented quite a lot with game speed. Obviously, there are a number of factors which can make the game feel faster or slower, such as movement speed, such as how quickly abilities trigger, whether you can dodge them by moving or whether you need to anticipate them, that type of thing. What we've found is that the pace of the game is very, very tightly connected with a lot of other systems. And so as we've changed one system, for example, as we added more camps in the game, we realized, oh, we really need to have the movement between those camps be significant. You can't just have units that are fast enough to immediately rotate between all the camps, otherwise there's no real territory control that happens. You noticed earlier on in the game when the hard camp spawned at the outer two edges, the Harrison's team took the bottom right camp, the enemy took the top left camp. If movement speeds were substantially faster, it would have been possible for those teams to potentially claim one of those camps quickly, pull it back in towards one of their towers where it's safe, and let the other two allies swing around to top to start harassing. because we have a little bit more deliberate movement, it makes it, you have to really think sort of where your allies are right now. If we're all near the bottom, we should probably focus all on the bottom and sacrifice that hard camp at the top to make sure we can safely get the resources we need to pull off our build. On the other hand, and I'm going to be real quick before I let Harrison talk about his impending doom here. On the other hand, if you have fast units like sabers, you can try to pull off some of those sabers, pull them up towards the top, and harass the enemies to give them a hard time. But you have to do it with something fast. Alright, so now, to talk about the impending doom here, you can see Harrison's Nexus is inches away from death, but they had an incredibly good engagement. My goodness! I had totally written off that Nexus. I thought it was dead for sure. And instead, Harrison's allies, those Purifiers, I think they must have gotten
I think it was mostly I think our my Celesta ally here, that'd be Ferret's Rock, is a pretty big hero. He got a great ultimate by Celesta, and he got a lot of the Purifier blast down, and that really made it hard for them. They had so many units there that they were trying to just jam onto our archive that they couldn't get out. They couldn't turn around. They were committed, and they died for it.
Now the real question is, with the Nexus damaged that far, it has shield. It will regenerate some of the health, but not all of it. And it is possible that the enemy team could rally here. They're going to have to play perfect. They're going to have to get a big kill on those armies, a big wipe, in order to survive. Oh, that could be it. You can see those igniter fireballs are just tearing into everyone. Those are placed excellent. There's nowhere to dodge those. Yeah, you can see there's just not enough space for 3 players to stand at the same time. And as a result, I think that was probably another 100 energy worth of kills from those abilities alone. You can see how the tier 3 units really have a dramatic impact on how the games can turn out. Even if you have a pretty strong start, if you don't leverage that quickly, we can see that. I mean, it's just Harrison left. We talked a little bit earlier about how Harrison's allies, Celesta and Eris, are a little bit more on the vulnerable side. They need to be very careful because their units have less hit points, and especially for Celesta, those Wisps do not have any mobility option. They are not slow units, but when they're in place, they're pretty much there until you find a way to disengage with another unit. The Purifier is actually a good help there, but I think this Purifier's got fire blown.
So hopefully, though, they committed so much that push, and we managed to kill a significant amount of them on the defense, that we'll be able to take this Titan, and that should help just clean the game up after that, help us finish it.
We'll see. You have no vision in the bottom there. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen. That's true.
Alright, now they actually see some enemies. So that gives them some reassurance that at least there's not going to be a huge attempt to just swing down to the next immediately.
As you pointed out, we really don't know what's down there. I'm asking my allies to try to rotate down there and get some vision. I'm getting zoned pretty hard by this and missed it by a beat. I'm going to try to push them off of the Titan here so that they can't out-damage us on this Titan. Looks like they're going to have to take off. I'm going to go make sure, since we still don't have vision down here, that we're not getting backdoored again. I'm going to leave most of my stuff here and actually just take my hero and try to lay down some wards. Yeah.
Aha.
There's somebody.
Sneaky, there they are. Alright, so Silver Direwolf has another great question. Do camps give unit buffs or just XP or resources? Currently, the camps drop those shards if you collect, and of course give you XP when you get the kills themselves. There is no direct unit buff. If you want your units to be better, you have 2 options. You can buy upgrades, or you can claim your Titan and stand real close to it. Give that Titan a big hug. Uh-oh. Oh! The backdoor almost worked, but they did not get through that shield. That shield is still standing, so despite the fact they got a lot of damage on the Nexus, the health regeneration was critical there for them surviving. And all this time, those Purifiers have just been working at that Titan. Oh my goodness. I think there's a chance with those kills, that this Titan could end the game. It's been really close. This game has been one of the you look at the kill count and you see that Harrison's team has gotten substantially more kills, and you look at that and you say, well, this game isn't close.
Oh, but it hasn't felt that way. It's felt very tight.
Seen it. If you've been watching this game, the structures have been traded in each round. The Titans have been traded in each round.
Look, our base, this entire side is just gone, and they've used that really well to get a lot of work done on this side. Really harass that unit and tried a really good couple of attempts to win the game when we weren't looking. That was really dangerous, but we got them shut down.
And they're not out of the woods yet. They have this push. They have this Titan. They have a good opportunity here. If they get a good engagement, they will win. This is where you can win the game. If that engagement is not good, if you're out of place, if Igniter Fireballs come into play here, if an ultimate comes into play here, Harrison's Nexus is still at, it's got the shield, and that's just about it. Okay, it looks like the enemy is warping in to defend the base. They've warped in close to the base. This is a really good opportunity. This should end the game. Harrison team has all the damage they need. So
I think we've got it.
This is just about it. Whew, what a game. Unreal. That game was really close.
Well, GG's all around. That was a great game, everyone. I don't know if anyone who was in that game will see this later, but that was excellent. Thank you for a wonderful game. Fantastic, Neal.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right. We're going to go on a short break, I believe.
Yeah, I need to drink some water first of all.
I think we're going to go on a short break here, and we'll start up the stream again in just a moment.
All right. Thank you all for watching.